In the Mississippi Delta, the air could feel like a locked door. Fannie Lou Hamer was born on October 6, 1917 in Montgomery County, the youngest of 20 children in a sharecropping family. Cotton wasn't a crop so much as a calendar. Childhood ended early. Hunger didn't. She grew up inside a system built to keep black families working, owing, and quiet. And for years, that's what her life looked like from the outside. Labor, church, survival. But underneath, she was learning every inch of how power works when it's allowed to be cruel. Then in 1961, the cruelty put on a white coat. She went in for surgery to remove a tumor and came out sterilized without her knowledge or consent, a forced hysterectomy. The black community had a name for it because it happened so much, the Mississippi appendectomy. It's hard to explain that kind of theft. No courtroom, no warning. Just a stolen future signed off like paperwork. A lot of people would have folded inward after that. She didn't. In August 1962, she went to a meeting organized by the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And a few days later, on August 31st, 1962, she got on a bus with neighbors and went to the courthouse in Indianola to try to register to vote. That should have been ordinary. Mississippi made it a crime without writing the word crime. She was turned away and then the punishment came fast. She was fired and forced off the plantation where she had lived and worked for years. That's how the trap stayed closed. Reach for the ballot, lose the roof. Try again and they make sure everyone sees the cost. But the thing about Fannie Lou Hamer is, once the truth grabbed her, it couldn't let go. In June 1963, she was coming back from a training when she and others were arrested in Winona. And in that jail, the violence wasn't an accident. It was a policy with dirty hands. Officers ordered incarcerated men to beat her. A blackjack, baton blows. The kind of assault meant to turn a human being into a warning sign. She lived, but she carried those injuries the rest of her life. And she named it for what it was: terror. Wearing a badge. Here's where the story shifts, because the system expected pain to produce silence. Instead, it produced a witness. By 1964, she was helping lead the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, built to challenge Mississippi's all-white democratic machine. Then came the moment that still crackles through history like a live wire. August 22, 1964. Democratic National Convention in Atlantic City. She sits before the Credentials Committee and tells the country what democracy costs in Mississippi. In plain words, with no perfume sprayed over the brutality. And the president heard it coming. Lyndon B. Johnson panicked enough that he called an impromptu press conference to cut away from her testimony on television. He tried to interrupt the truth mid-sentence, but it backfired. Her story aired later that night on the major networks anyway, because once the nation has seen something, it can't unsee it. Then came the compromise the kind power loves, a tiny concession dressed up as progress. The party offered the Freedom Democrats 2 at-large seats, and Hamer said no. "We didn't come all this way for no 2 seats," she insisted, because she wasn't fighting for a photo opportunity. She was fighting for full humanity. People like to tell civil rights stories like they're fairy tales, one brave speech, one law, the credits roll. Real life is uglier and slower, but make no mistake. Hamer's testimony and the MFDP challenge helped shove the country's face toward what it was trying not to look at. It sharpened the national pressure that helped make federal voting protections politically unavoidable. And then, because she understood something colder than ideology, she widened the fight. Because you can't vote on an empty stomach. You can't organize if eviction is always one signature away. You can't participate in democracy if your kids are hungry and your landlord owns your fear. So in 1969, she founded the Freedom Farm Cooperative in Sunflower County, starting with land purchased using a donation and turning it into something that fed people and broke dependency. It wasn't charity. It was survival with teeth. This is the part that deserves its own spotlight. She didn't only fight for access to power. She fought to build black power where people lived. Dirt, food, housing, mutual aid, political education. The infrastructure of dignity. But the work was heavy and Mississippi did not get gentle. A mix of disasters and financial strain battered the co-op. Floods, droughts, tornadoes, taxes, and the reality that white-owned farms got support, the Freedom Farm didn't. By 1976, it closed, and her health was failing too. In 1976, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. On March 14, 1977, she died in a hospital in Mount Bayou at the age of 59 from complications tied to breast cancer and hypertension. 6 days later, on March 20, 1977, her funeral was held at Williams Chapel Baptist Church in Ruleville, and she was laid to rest there, among the people she spent her life fighting for. Now listen, because this is where your ending turns into a mirror. They tried to shrink her with poverty. She became a leader. They tried to erase her motherhood without her consent. She became a mother to a movement. They tried to beat her into silence in a Mississippi jail. She turned pain into testimony. They tried to starve a community into obedience. She built land and food and a way to breathe. So for Black History Month, don't end her story like it's finished. End it like it's been handed to you. Because the truth is, Hamer wasn't born powerful. She was born hunted by a system, and she decided the system would not get the last word. Not then, not now. And if you're watching this, if you're hearing this, you're living proof her voice made it through.